everybody, welcome back to the channel, and we are now at week number 8. As you see, the headline says UMC fans irate, 11 ranked Bobcats hope to garner national considerations, and I'll gonna show you why a little bit. As we go into our top 25, Devils keep winning. Mickey takes out conference opponent Florida State 45-38. And now your top 25 in the coaches poll goes like these. At number 1, Florida. Number 2, Arkansas. Number 3, USC. 4, TCU. USC and TCU both get a first place vote, which is good. 5th is Wisconsin. 6th is LSU. 7th is Miami. 8th, Nebraska. 9th, Hawaii. 10th, Florida State. 11th, McNary Central. And yeah, they're one of 5 teams in the top 25 that are undefeated. So yeah, you can say they could use a little bit more recognition, especially since they're 4-0 in conference, when Arkansas is 3-0, TCU's 3-0, Miami's 3-0, and the only other school's Hawaii is 4-0. So yeah. And with number 12 is Penn State, 13th is Virginia Tech, 14th is UCLA. They just gained 3 spots just by not playing last week. Meanwhile, Cal goes down to 15th, Texas up to 16th, 17th is Kansas State, 18th is the Ohio State, 19th is Tennessee, 20th is Michigan, 21st making their debut in the polls this year is Mickey. Notre Dame falls down to 22nd, 23rd is West Virginia Mountain Mama, 24th is Oklahoma, 25th is Texas, and 25th is Texas A&M. Meanwhile, for the media, you have Florida, then Arkansas. Media says TCU should be number 3. Somebody gave them a first place vote even. Then you have USC. LSU should be 5th. 6th should be Wisconsin. 7th, Nebraska. Media says McNary Central should be 8th. McNary Central fans are loving the media more than the actual coaches. But we're tied with Miami for 8th. So, generally speaking, Miami's 9. 10th is Florida State. So they agree with the coaches. They say Penn State should be 11. 12th should be Kansas State. 13th, Hawaii. 14th, Virginia Tech. 15th, Mickey. 16th, Cal. 17th, Oregon State. 18th, UCLA. I mean, understandable, they had the bye week. 19th, the Ohio State. Then again, Kent State's not really that tough an opponent. 20th is Texas. 21st is Tennessee. 22nd should be Michigan. 23rd, Notre Dame. 24th, returning into a poll. Granted, it's a media poll, but still a poll nonetheless. Boston College. And 25th is Oklahoma. And now, for your Heisman poll right now. In the lead is Dylan Miller, who has made defenses look silly all year, throwing for 4,688 yards and 86 touchdowns. As we looked in the previous episode of the midseason awards, he would have won this. And Lincoln's even made his way up to Heisman considerations, with mainly his stat line of 1,861 all-purpose yards and 31 touchdowns. And we'll go to the conference standings for our bottom 10. And we will start off talking about Wyoming. Good news, The Cowboys scored 28 points last week. Bad news, they allowed 42 and fallen to 0-6. They really need to find some way to regain some focus and try to get a win against the Air Force this week. If Wyoming can build up momentum against the Falcons, who are struggling big time, losing 4 of their last 5 games, then the Cowboys could regain that confidence that they so desperately need to help with recruiting. Because a conference win, even if it's just one, can go a long way into how well the recruiting process goes for you and your school. Brian Morgan will be happy with his results for recruitment, even with just one win. And number 2, conference friend BYU. And the Cougars need to gain something. They have a game against Eastern Washington, an FCS school, which should provide them their first win of the year. BYU, as you can see, is one of 2 teams, along with Wyoming, to be 0-6 right now. But this game against the Eagles of Eastern Washington should try to build up any momentum for their actual games, with their next game against an FBS school being against San Diego State in Week 9. And the Aztecs are 5-1. Their only loss coming to Utah last week, a team the Cougars are facing in Week 13. And yeah, for Utah, they're 2-5, and surprisingly beat San Diego State. And they could beat TCU, you never know. That'd be a little bit weird. But for number 3, I just zoomed right by them, just without knowing, is Stanford. Cardinal had that win against San Jose State, but haven't been able to find success against actual competent teams. At 0-4 in conference play and losing to TCU last week, a game that normal Power 5 schools should have won, they have become the newest laughingstock of the Pac-10 and have a game in conference against Arizona. Stanford hopes this will be a good spark for them to gain some confidence and momentum for the rest of the season and gain a few wins for their head coach Andrew Luck. Because Arizona is maybe the hottest place in the United States, but their football team is less than desirable. I mean, granted, 3-4, not that bad of a record, not good either. But number 4 for the list is Marshall. Thundering Herd have only 75 points through 6 games and support a 1-5 record, with their only win coming against New Hampshire, an FCS school. And even then, it was a 12-7 win. Not even that much of a confidence booster. Like, you say you won a game against New Hampshire, they're like, oh, well, of course. What'd you win by? 70-0? 12-7. 12-7? No. Not a good way to build up your fan base when your average attendance is 26,550. They really need some sort of momentum boost for the season, and this week against Southern Mississippi should be used as a possible way to gain that momentum, and maybe even unlock something in that offense. And they need their defense to step up to allowing 200 points already as well. At number 5, I chose not Washington, but Washington State. The Cougars have been one of the worst teams in the nation and have finally slipped into the bottom 10 for consideration. At 0-4 in conference play, a 1-6 overall record, and that one win being against Idaho, blowing them out 50-10, they need to beat actual competent competition. They do have a bye this week, so they need to use this time to breathe and recover before facing UCLA next week. And they definitely need that. Although, granted, their quarterback's doing well passing-wise. Their defense just needs to hold on. With an exemption of their first game against Wisconsin, Washington State has been able to score. They just need the defense to step up. If they can do that, they could build some momentum for recruiting. And at number 6, we got the Duke Blue Devils, who are feeling pretty blue right now. I was about to say, I think I'm heading the wrong way, but I am not. The Devils have been atrocious in their passing offense, due to their quarterback Andy Myers having 17 interceptions to only 4 touchdowns. At 2-5 with wins against Navy and UConn, they need to change something up because they can't seem to throw the ball to save their lives. A bye week this week should be helpful for the sophomore quarterback though, because then he can be able to hit his targets that are wearing the correct jerseys. If not, then that run game needs to be their focal point for the rest of the season. And I don't even think their run game's all that good, because let's go ahead and use this. See, since they're going against Florida State next week, they have a run game that's 79th in the nation. So, average. But at 2-5, you're already kind of needing to make a miracle run for the conference champion for a bowl play. And now for number 7 is North Carolina. And the Tar Heels just seem to be stuck in the tar, as they are being outscored by more than double their points this year. They just had a close loss to South Carolina last week, as you can see, 40-10. So they have shown that they have some potential to win, but their next game is against Mickey, who just became ranked, and don't look like they'll be giving it up anytime soon. Best of luck to you. Oh, and I didn't realize this, but it's on the road too, so have fun. Ask Florida State what tips they need to bring to that game. And yeah, hopefully they can be able to be in the right mindset when they face Duke at the end of the season for that conference rivalry game. Now we go from one blue team to another blue team to yet another blue team, the Buffalo Bulls. And the Bulls have been getting stopped, and they've been terrible. Currently 1-6, and that one win being against Baylor, which is good for recruiting, because you can say, hey, we beat a Big 12 school, but they haven't been able to have success that they want to have. And an in-state game against Syracuse this week should be a big help for them, as the Orange are 2-5 and have lost 4 straight. But with 16 interceptions by quarterback Carl Henry, something tells me that Syracuse will pull out the win due to Henry's inaccuracy. Because, he's got 1,400 yards through the 7 games so far. So he can hit, so he can throw, he just needs to be accurate. At number 9, we have Troy, and they may have a win on the Sun Belt, but having 100 points through 6 games and have allowed 205 points through 6 games, they need to step up their defense if they expect to win any more games this year. North Texas is their next opponent, and it should be a win, as look at this, literally, Sun Belt could be won by anybody. Everybody has a conference win. North Texas, Louisiana, Lafayette both have a game. We'll both have 2 wins. Everybody else has 1, so yeah. Literally, you can throw this conference under a blanket and whoever comes out on top wins. And the last team, I'll just go over here because they're in this conference, is Louisiana Tech. And I highly expect the Bulldogs to do better this year. Mainly because it's previous universe. They're sitting at 1-5, 0-3 in conference play, and the passing game is being bad. They need to turn around big time. And I only say bad because they haven't had as many yards as they normally do. This week they're up against the Boise State Broncos, and this should be a good game to be able to be competitive. And Boise's not even doing all that well, than what I'm normally used to, you know. But that's it for the bottom 10. And now, normally I do 5 key games, but this week there were a couple extra games on the schedule that I couldn't help but put on as well. So, we're having 7 key games this week. And to start things off, it's Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. And in this huge Big East matchup, the Cincinnati Bearcats go into Pittsburgh and take on the undefeated Panthers at Heinz Field. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, hey, NFL, college, they'll take it. They'll be rowdy enough for it. The Panthers need this win more than the Bearcats in hopes of keeping up with Louisville and West Virginia in the Big East Championship race. The Bearcats need it because of how big this game is, not only in a conference sense, but also in a rivalry sense, as this would be bragging rights for them. I do think, though, that at the end of this game, Pittsburgh will be able to use that offensive prowess of theirs, that's averaging 469.8 yards per game, third in the entire nation, to power past Cincinnati in a defense that's ranked 83rd in the nation, to claim this rivalry game and keep pace with the Mountaineers and Cardinals for another week, and remain undefeated too, something they have an edge over both the other teams. And now the next game is Maryland and Virginia, with Virginia being on the road at College Park. Good, well, I've learned this script earlier with just looking at the stats. I guess the weather read correctly. The race in the ACC is starting to heat up. The Cavaliers of Virginia go on the road this week to take on the Terrapins of Maryland. Virginia is in a dead heat with Miami for representation of the Coastal Division for the ACC. With a win, Virginia can keep up with the Hurricanes for another week. With a Maryland win, though, Virginia has to hope to beat Miami to be able to claim that coveted division representative spot. Both teams are coming off bounce-back wins, with Virginia's coming against Connecticut, and for Maryland against Georgia Tech. And it was a thrashing too. So I do think that the Terrapins will pull off victory at home in College Park, and I say mainly due to their turnover efficiency, because Maryland may score more points, but their offense isn't that great. Their defense is also kind of mid, but 1.8 turnovers more. They force more turnovers on average. I think that's probably going to help them out. And now for number 3, it's going to involve the number 3 team in the nation between USC and Notre Dame. A big-time rivalry game in the battle for the jeweled shillelagh. And I can tell I did not spell that correctly on the script because I was just looking at the stats. And the stats don't tell you how to spell the word shillelagh. The Trojans, after an early season loss to Nebraska, have bounced back, remain inside the top 5, and are riding a 4-game win streak. Meanwhile, the Fighting Irish are coming off a loss, but are still ranked and looking to build up some momentum at home in South Bend. And I personally think USC may have the talent, but Notre Dame has the heart. And the Fighting Irish may look bad compared to the Trojans on paper, but we've seen Notre Dame pull off big wins before. And I believe they'll pull off another one here, as USC will fall in South Bend and lose again to a ranked foe. And now the next game is Cal versus UCLA in good old Pasadena. Honestly, I thought this was a rivalry game, but I guess not. But in this highly anticipated in-state matchup between the California Golden Bears and UCLA Bruins, it is one of in-state passion and intensity. Both teams only being one rank off of each other adds a different layer to this year's matchup. The Bruins have been on a low skid, losing 2 in a row, while the Bears have just lost last week to Oregon State. and are looking to bounce back with a passing attack that's 7th in the nation at 309.3 yards per game. The Bruins still have a top defense, 11th in the nation, around 256.4 yards per game, including only 61.4 yards per game on the ground. California's offense is no slouch either, ranked 22nd in the nation, so this should get real good real quick. Winner here can keep up with USC and have the hopes of beating them. And I believe that honor will go to UCLA, because their defense will win them possibly the Pac-10 championship. I mean, seriously. 61.4 yards a game. That's pretty darn impressive right there. And now, at one for the two extra games on here, this would be the last game. Our typical 5th-ranked curse game, this time Northern Illinois against number 5 Wisconsin. And I know on paper it's a clean win for Wisconsin, but they're in the realm of the curse now, ranked 5th. Could the Badgers find a way to break the curse against a Huskies team who's been inconsistent on winning and losing, sitting at 4-3? Will their run game be more sufficient to run away with it, sitting at 3rd in the nation with 260.7 yards per game? I don't think they will be able to do so, as the inconsistency of the Huskies should be able to lead them to a win this week instead of a loss, and shock the entire nation and have the curse live on for one more week for the next team to possibly suffer from it. And now, here are your 2 free games for the key games of the week. First one being Texas at Nebraska. In this top 25 Big 12 matchup, the Aggies, coming off that heartbreaking loss to Texas Tech, are going to try to upset the Cornhuskers at home in Lincoln. And Nebraska's won 5 straight games and have a defense that's inside the top 10 of the nation, allowing a total of 234.1 yards per game on average. The Aggies are looking good offensively, as they're still ranked inside the top 25 offensively, 19th to be exact, and they average 417.9 yards per game. This one should be another exciting game in the Big 12 Conference, as A&M needs this win to stay competitive in the South, as Nebraska needs this to maintain pace in the North with Kansas State. In the end, I think the Aggies will win, because not only is their offense good, but that defense is ranked 10th in the nation, and going against an offense that's ranked 56th in the nation. So, yeah. And now, the last game of the week is this week's game of the week. Number 7, Miami. Number 10, Florida State. Hurricanes. Seminoles. These two teams are battling for in-state bragging rights in this intense rivalry game inside the confines of the ACC. Miami is currently undefeated and looks like there's no way of stopping them. Meanwhile, Florida State fell victim of the 5th-ranked curse last week against Mickey. The Hurricanes need this to keep up with Virginia, as both teams are undefeated in ACC play, while the Seminoles need this bounce-back win to regain confidence and momentum after coming up short last week. Meanwhile, for the state of Florida, they're both chasing the Gators, who are on top of the rankings, and if they can maintain momentum until then, one of these teams might pull off a win against Florida. But for this matchup, even though the U has better stats, I think Florida State will be able to bounce back, upset Miami and Tallahassee, rebound after a close loss, and regain some momentum going forward towards bowl season. Well, that's all the games for this week, and this has been a longer episode than normal, but until then, I will see you all for the key game review next time.